Okay, so it seems we're back. The network is really terrible today, so I'm trying to connect from my phone. Can you hear me? Okay, just want to do mic check, mic check, mic check. I will come to use the phone just as a backup. Network is back now. I can see we have full bar, so I'm just going to go straight into today. So, good morning from where I am. My name is Florence, and today I will bring to you the DEIB Small Talk. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us today. I can see that we're having serious lag. Okay, so the network is back. We're having serious lag, so I'm going to take some time to switch over to my phone instead. So please, I'll go offline for some minutes. Please bear with us. Thank you very much for your patience. I really appreciate some technical issues from our end. So I'm trying to see ways that share that effort is working correctly. So I will be streaming from my phone live to I'm not going to allow technology to affect our program for today. Me, if you can hear me, please let me know. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you so much. Now, just want to give one more minute and we'll be live. Okay, thank you very much for your. So my name is Florence Idowu, and I am your moderator for to have the same topic that we started at the second week, on the 12th of September. I will discuss the topic cultural and modern day organization. Today I have another interest, but before I introduce him, I would just like to quickly talk about DEI minutes. So DEI Small Talk is a series sponsored by Bavarde. Now we talk about issues in current trends that is around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness. So if you are at the meaning or the full meaning of DEIB, it is diversity and belongingness. Okay, so let's just start. And so my name is Florence, like I said, and we talked about talent acquisition business partner. I have both current agency experiences, and my expertise is on recruitment and staffing, employee support services, HR transformation, team alignment, DEI. In the last year, I've positioned myself as a strategic leader and business partner with the organization in ways that I connect to solve business problems by leveraging innovative strategies in my practice. I like to say that I'm a talent strategist. And a person of color, I have developed the capacity to guide organizations in augmenting their DEI policies and strategies by providing tactical training and implementing challenging initiatives, and of course encouraging them to embrace the ever-changing world. Today I have with me an amazing guest speaker. His name is Aaron, but before I allow him to introduce himself, I would also do the introduction. So let's meet Aaron. So Aaron is a research and development business performance manager and is also currently a member of the representation in clinical research team, aka RISE. In his role, he supports work strategies, change management, diversity, inclusion, and belonging efforts, and project management. Period to this, he participated in Amgen Veteran Fellowship Program where he assisted the organization's centralized diversity, inclusion, and belonging team. Aaron is a retired U.S. Army with over 20 years of service, achieving the highest enlisted rank of Command Sergeant Major. I think I really wish I have a cap so I can just remove it and say salutes. So Aaron is Aaron holds, pardon the error. Aaron holds an MBA and an undergraduate degree in healthcare administration, amongst other certification. Outside of work, Aaron volunteers with various organizations. He is an active alumni member of the Leadership Tampa, a program sponsored by the Tampa Chambers of Commerce. Thank you very much. I'm going to welcome Aaron to the platform. But before I do that, please do well to follow us on LinkedIn and, of course, also on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel so that anytime we have series, we have new shows and new episode, you will be the first one to be notified. Click on the notification bell and enjoy the show. Hello, Aaron.
Hey, Florence, how
I'm doing
you doing this
great.
morning?
How are you too? So sorry about the technical issues. I wasn't sure why there was lagging. The lagging is just unbearable. And I was like, no, I have my phone. I can do this in my phone. I don't have to use my system every time. Thank you for bearing with me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, doing very well. Here in sunny Tampa, Florida. We're supposed to, expecting a little blowback from the Hurricane Ian that's coming through, so we'll see how it goes.
I would say that it seems your words are a little bit muffled. Do you want to take a little, maybe take your speaker away from you, or I don't know, maybe you could just make some little adjustments.
Do what now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. So would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners? Just like a little more from you.
Yeah, so good morning to all the listeners out there. As Florence said in the beginning, I'm Aaron Wheeler. I work for a biotech company, and my day-to-day job is to try to find creative and innovation solutions to how we can get more racial diversity in our clinical research and clinical trials. Ultimately, we want to be able to produce the best medicine that we can, and that starts with having a diverse pool of people to go through the trials. So happy to be here this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm also excited to have you here with me today. So the topic we have before me is what we've been talking about since the beginning of this month. It is cultural supremacy in modern day organization. And one thing that we've been doing since we started this series is to make sure that we have a team. And for every team, our speakers drive the conversation. They talk about what they think about the topic or the thing. And the first speaker we had was Danielle Stephenson. She had an amazing perspective, which most of our listeners would, if they can always go back to the video, if you go follow Bavarde Talent Solutions on LinkedIn or even on our YouTube channel, you'll find the video and you can see the perspective in which she brought to the table. Today I have Aaron, and Aaron is a retired U.S. Army, and I know that the perspective is going to bring, apart from even being in the U.S. Army, he is also into clinical research, DEI in the clinical. So it's like we're having two different perspectives you're going to bring to the table today. And I'm so much excited to hear what we have. So before we go, I would say that I like to talk about cultural diversity. And cultural diversity is very, very vast. It's like we're talking about everything that concerns DEI. We're talking about race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, language, immigration status, gender, age. We're talking about everything that has to do with diversity. Okay. I just received a comment that says they could hear more of the background music. So I'm going to just stop that, and I hope that helps. Okay, so I really hope that helps. If you are hearing me, if you can still hear the background music, please let me know if it is better now. Also, let me know. I would really appreciate. Thank you for the comments.
Yeah, I
Okay, so
think
like I was saying, so we're saying we're looking into cultural diversity, and I would like to know what is your own perspective when we say the word cultural diversity. What comes to your mind? Like, what is that first thing that you think of when we say cultural diversity? And I would also like to thank our audience. I really cannot see who is online now because I'm using my phone. Okay, thank you very much, Jackson. I really appreciate the comments. He said that it's the background noise is gone now, so it is better. Thank you very much, Abati. Thank you. I appreciate. So we're having more people join us. And I'm very sure that everyone is excited. So I would also like to know what our listeners think about cultural diversity. Well, Aaron, can you tell me about your own perspective of cultural diversity?
well, Florence, that's a great question. In my own words, I think that cultural diversity is the ability to recognize that there's differences in people, and being able to take those differences and collectively put them together to move forward in whatever capacity that is. If it's in a workplace, if it's in your local community, if it's in healthcare, if it's in the military. So cultural diversity is being able to allow people to just express themselves and embracing those different expressions to move forward in a collective effort. That's how I would put it.
Hmm. Even if it is different person, the goal is always a collective effort. The
Yeah.
goal is the collectiveness. So it doesn't matter your differences. It doesn't matter how different. Maybe you're different in age, you're different in gender, you're different in color, but you are pursuing a collective goal. That's very interesting. My own approach to dive to cultural diversity, I've always looked at it from the organization aspect. Don't blame me. I'm an organization person. So what I've always looked at it is it doesn't matter how many people or how many different people we have in an organization. Like you said, a collective goal. I look at it from we have every organization have a strategic plan, and it doesn't matter if you are in finance, you are in marketing, you're in HR, you're in business development. We are all working towards that strategic goal. We are all working to fulfill the strategic plan of the organization, and that is how I view cultural diversity, because it doesn't matter how different we are always working towards a single goal. And that is why we're also going to talk about shared culture in today's. But before we go that, now we have the topic culture supremacy
Mm.
in modern day organization. Now we've talked about what cultural diversity is. So what do you think about cultural supremacy?
Who? Tough question. It's a very sensitive topic for a lot of people to want to discuss. I mean, in the simplest forms, I think cultural supremacy is just like racial supremacy. You have a certain group of people within an organization who want to maintain a status quo, and that status quo is typically with them on top. Um, I'll just kind of use, and it can be seen in various forms. I mean, I don't want to make it completely racially biased, but it could be gender. I mean, coming from the U.S. military, where it's a heavy population of male over females, I can remember, in my particular job field, when we started to integrate females into certain jobs. And that was, it was an exciting time for me because I think it was overdue. But there were a lot of people who just did not want to see that change.
Mm.
And they came up with a lot of reasons on why it shouldn't happen. But luckily, there were more people who thought the change was necessary. Big army thought the change was necessary, and we kind of broke up that cultural supremacy by the gender domination in that particular job field. So I think it's just people being complacent with having a certain race or gender, or it could be religion, it could be anything, in power, and being able to come and kind of shake that up and make it more equitable for everybody.
Okay, let's look at some organizations that are very dominated. I've had this argument where people say, okay, this job is for a particular gender, or this particular job cannot be done by a female gender. For instance, the construction or engineering. Oh, that has changed. But let's just give an example. We still talk about how some organizations are still dominated, not by a particular gender. We could say this is dominated by a female, this is dominated by male. What would you have to say in regards to that?
Well, I think there are certain industries and certain jobs that do tend to favor one gender over another. But I think what balance that out is people just saying, "Hey, it's a job that I can do." At the end of the day, I mean, you can just say teaching. I mean, let's take teaching for example. If you look statistically, there's more female teachers than males,
Mhm.
but it's just kind of a societal norm that's been promoted over the course of time. But everybody realizes that a male can be just as effective or more effective as a teacher than a female. Military is no different. For years it was male dominated. I mean, it's still male dominated, but the shift to allow females more opportunity to command, to serve in combat roles, has expanded tremendously over the last few years. So I think it just takes that brave and courageous person or group of people to say, hey, you know what? This may appear to be the norm, but let's change it so it's not the norm, and let's make it, at the end of the day, fair and equitable for everybody to contribute and be able to, bring something within an organization. So that's what I think. No job is specific to one type of person. I think everybody has the capacity to do any type of job or any type of leadership role or whatever it may be. It's just giving them the opportunity to succeed.
Mm. Giving them the opportunity to succeed. I do remember in a conversation I had with one of my clients, and they were telling me about how their organization, it's an engineering firm, was more male dominated, and they're not open to the female or the other gender. Are like, oh, it's too risky. Our applicants, our candidates, they've usually be male. Even if we have female, it's maybe like a 1 out of 10. And I was like, okay, what stops you from actually trying to diversify and look at the qualified female that applied and take her in or accept or hire her, and like, oh, we want to watch us this and that. So I would say, what would be your opinion, or what would be the advice that we can give to organization when it comes to diversity recruitment? Organizations will always say that we want diverse pool of people, but when they say that, they actually just mean in the pool, not out of the pool now, not in the workplace. What advice or what will be your take on that, and how can we change the status quo?
No, that's a very, very good question. And as you were speaking, you kind of touched on a couple of points that I like to reiterate. First and foremost, it's been scientifically proven, or plenty of literature that will tell you that the more diverse an organization is, the higher the performance of the organization. I mean, it's been proven multiple times. And I think when you look at it from a business standpoint, If your goal is to one make generate as much revenue as you can, if that's your goal, or if it's to have the best customer satisfaction that you can have, or if it's to get your product or whatever it is out to as many people or clients as possible, you have to diversify. You have to
Mhm.
be diverse because there's not one single target audience that's going to allow you to maximize your return on investment in your business. I mean, it's amazes me how in 2022 some organizations still don't understand that. I mean, can you imagine? Let's just take, I went to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game yesterday. Let's just say if the Buccaneers really only targeted one market or one audience, they would not be able to generate the revenue that they generate. Walking inside of that stadium, you see people from just different ethnicities, different backgrounds. And for a business, that's revenue. So I think, for people in talent acquisitions or leadership positions, if you truly care about your organization, then diversity has to be at the forefront of your mind is how do we become more diverse? Because ultimately, that's how do we become a better company or a better organization. So, to me, it's a no brainer, but to some people, they put a lot of extra thought and emphasis into something that should be, routine. And that's look at the most diverse candidates that you can have to fill various levels within your organization because it's just going to make the organization better overall.
Okay, let me ask. I know that you have been an alumni member when we're talking about the Tempa program.
Mhm.
How would you, let's assume you want to preach diversity to the chambers of to the Tampa chambers of commerce. How would you go about that?
You know, luckily for the Tampa Chamber of Commerce, you don't have to speak to them about it. If anybody was to visit their website, you'll see in their mission and goals and their vision statements, the diversity, equity, and inclusion is all over there. And I can, as a person who went through, the 9 month program, I saw the diversity in my class, and that wasn't something that just happened overnight. They had to build up to that because if you go back to earlier classes, it was diverse, but nowhere near as much diversity as it is now. And I think, one thing I love about, just the city of Tampa and some of the elected officials is that you hear the word diversity in different aspects. And kind of one of the things that you'll do in any city's leadership program is you kind of get a behind the scenes look at different organizations and different agencies that make that city run. So, first responders, we had a chance to meet the mayor, police chief, fire chief, black female. Then you move to the healthcare sector, you see the diversity there. Then we move into education, you see the diversity there. We had an opportunity to go up to the state capitol. We have a Latino female representative, we have black female representatives. So, I think just maybe I'm biased because I just love the city of Tampa, but I think the city of Tampa is a very good example of what's going right as far as leadership standpoint and trying to acquire and recruit and spread that hey, we need to be diversity and we need to reflect what our community looks like.
Okay, I'm going to
Um,
cut you short there. You talked about the diversity statement. And do you know, because I am very much aware that there is a wide gap between an organization having a diversity statement, which every organization will have. When we go to the website, we would always see it, the EEOA, Equal Opportunity, Equal Employer Opportunity Act. Every organization have it. The diversity statements. Every organization have it. Even education, when they want to take in new students, that's how you provide your diversity statements, your diversity essay. But that is not it. That is maybe the beginning, but organizations are far away from that. Having a diversity statement or being backed up with the Equal Employee Opportunity Act is not having a diverse culture. Is not having a shared culture. And what I preach and what I want to preach is that having a shared culture, a culture where every differences can be celebrated, a culture that you have diversity in support or with equity, with inclusion, with belongingness, a culture where everyone has a voice. It's not about having DEI statements or diversity statements or being backed by EEOA. So if we are going to talk about that, let's look into the US Army, for instance. Oh, I do not want to offend anyone, but I really need to do this. I want you to tell me about your experiences in the US Army when in relations to DEI, in relations to be a person of color.
Whew. Oh man, that's I did over 25 years. So what I can tell you is from joining the military in the mid 90s to exiting just last year. I really haven't even hit a full year of being officially retired. I saw a huge transformation. And I'll give you an example. When I joined the army, being openly homosexual was grounds to get you involuntarily separated, meaning you would get involuntarily discharged for being, a homosexual. Now we are actually doing gender reassignment surgeries for people who meet, the medical qualifications for that. So if you're talking about a huge shift, it went from you couldn't be gay to Bill Clinton came in with "Don't Ask, Don't Tell," and then at one point we had an openly gay Secretary of the Army, and then of course President Obama just did away with it. You can openly serve gay. Now you have gay marriages for military service members, and so there was a huge shift. Now, is there a lot of work that still needs to be done? Absolutely. Um, you know, and eventually, I think it will get there. I think when it comes to racial equity, the military in general, not just the army, but the military in general, is really starting to see, in order to get new recruits to come into the military, you can't just talk it, you have to actually apply it. Because the generations joining the military today, it's not like my generation where you just kind of, hey, you do what you're told and you move with it. They're coming in now, they have voices. Some are coming in, TikTok influencers, social media influencers. So anything that they may perceive as being unfair, they'll take to social media, and the next thing you know, you got 100,000 views
Oh
to
yeah.
one thing. And when I came in, I don't even know we had internet, to be honest with you. Now I'm dating myself. We had internet, but it wasn't smartphones. It was beepers. People were using beepers. So now there's a wider lens or a wider view or spotlight on things that may be perceived as unfair and unequitable. So it's a forcing mechanism to hold leadership accountable. So if you're going to talk about it, you have to apply it, or I'll say you'll get called out. And sometimes, depending on what the situation is, it can cost a leader their career. So I think there's been tremendous strides. There's always more work that needs to be done, but I do feel like the military overall is moving in the right direction.
Hmm. Okay. So if you, I know you left the military already, you retired, but if you want to, okay, before go into the question, I do remember when I was with Amazon, I was part of the board member for the affinity group Warriors, and Warriors at Amazon is for, I would say, for us to advocate for the military recruitment, for us to advocate for the veterans, support them. We have so much programs that we will sponsor, will create, will organize, just to make sure that these people settle in. But if we look into organizations, how many veterans actually transition successfully now? Excuse me, I'm just gonna take some sip of water. So, how many veterans, looking at the ratio of veterans that transition successfully, from the military to the civilian world, the organization, our modern day organization, American corporate organization, what would be your advice? Because you are definitely inclined towards a different culture. Trust me, I know it. During my time as a board member, it was a different world entirely. I knew it because even the communication was just different. The way you guys talk, the way you express yourself, everything is different. But how would you advise? Because that is another group of the DEI. So how would we advocate? Not or how would you express yourself, or how would you explain to these people the difference? Now you've tasted or you're testing the corporate aspects and you have the experience of the military aspect. What is the difference? Let's start from what do you think is the differences? Let me start.
Oh, Florence, is unintentionally. This is a really wonderful question because one of the things I do in my volunteer time is I actually coach and mentor transitioning veterans to leave the military and come into the civilian workforce. So I deal with this literally on a daily basis, just through mentoring certain people or the organizations. Shout out to Four Block and the Camaraderie Foundation that I am an actual coach or mentor with. I think the first thing is one, my story is it's a success story. Um, Early on in my military career, I did my 3 year contract and I actually exited the military. At the time, I was 20 years old, and the process was just like, hey, you know what? You don't really need to learn how to write a resume. You're going to college, okay? We'll show you how to fill out an unemployment application, and you're good. They give you a booklet, and that was it. Now, and some people may agree or disagree, there's a lot. The program now, transitions assistance program, it's a lot more robust than what it was. There is a room for improvement always.
Mhm,
I think what a lot of veterans don't understand is, yes, people will thank you for your service and they do recognize the experience that a veteran brings into an organization. But what veterans have to realize is that's not enough. Like, you have to assimilate and you have to acclimate yourself to the civilian side. And
mhm,
I think sometimes when we, as a veteran, and this is something that I did and I had to, kind of grow in pains and learn, is that you hear all the time, oh, everybody wants to hire a veteran. Everybody wants to hire a veteran.
mhm,
And you automatically assume if you show up and be like, hey, I'm a veteran, you get that immediate pass. And that's just not the case. Like, you have to demonstrate your value to an organization. And the way you do that is you take the experience that you gain in the military and you figure out a way to transition it to the civilian side. And I'll use myself as an example. I had absolutely no knowledge of biotech before, being introduced to the company that I'm with now. The way I got introduced to the company is through a Hiring Our Heroes fellowship program that's ran by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
okay,
So there are tons of programs out there. You just have to take advantage of those programs. You have to network. Networking is key for military veterans. Don't just network with other military veterans, right? Because that's our comfort zone. I want to talk to somebody who can speak the lingo of the lingo, understands the acronyms. But if you don't expose yourself to that civilian sector or that corporate side, you will understand it. They got acronyms, they have lingo too. You just have to learn it. So I think the onus is companies are willing, but I do think a lot more of the onus is on the actual transitioning service member to step out of their comfort zone and find those things that are going to help them in their post-military career. And you utilize a person like myself or somebody who's went through the process. There's plenty of organizations out there that'll provide mentors for you.
yeah,
So I think the opportunities are there, but as veterans, we're so accustomed to the military kind of being very regimented. Hey, here's your orders. You're here for 2 years. Now we give you orders to another place. Here's the exercise you got. You got to be here. So it's a lot more regimented versus when you go into the civilian sector and the onus is on you as the individual to make these things happen versus in the military it's normally a collective organization that's making things happen. When you transition, is you the individual has to do it for yourself.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I just want to quickly say this is if you're listening, thank you once again. Please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on LinkedIn. It is Bavarde Talent Solution. And we have this program every other Monday. It's 11 a.m. or 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. Central Time. Today we have a special event with Aaron Wheeler, which is why we have it a little earlier. So we usually have it 12 p.m. Central Time, not 11, but we had just because of the accommodation. So I would say please do not forget to follow us on LinkedIn and also on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have questions, please drop them. We would attend to them. And if you have comments, I would also highlight them. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so now back, I would say this. Now let's go into shared culture. This is the last aspect of today's session. We've talked about the cultural diversity, we've talked about supremacy, culture supremacy, and the truth is no culture is supreme. But it's just fortunate that one culture may be more highlighted than the other. And in terms of organization culture, um, it's decided by the company. So, but no matter what your decision is or what the culture of your organization is, it should celebrate inclusion. It should celebrate diversity. So now let's talk about shared culture, organization culture, American corporate culture, cultural diversity, the differences in different culture, different people, or wherever it is. We need to look into this. How can organization have a shared culture? I want also to treat this before we go back to see ways that you can advise transitioning veterans into the workplace. So, what will be your take in having a shared culture, or how can organization have a shared culture?
This is I'm smiling because my last week was literally talking about this at a ERG, Employee Resource Group Summit, in Kissimmee, Florida, that was sponsored by the University of Southern California. So in large organizations, the majority, I would say, have employee resource groups or business resource groups or infinity networks. And what those are populations of people who have similar interests, or like you could have your Black employee network, you can have your veterans employee network, you can have your um, disability employee networks, Latino, women in STEM, whatever. I think those groups and organizations are extremely important for creating cultural diversity. I'll use my company as an instance. It was a collaboration between the Black Employee Network, Latino Employee Network, and Asian Association that really highlighted the fact that we needed to get more diversity in our clinical trials and studies.
Mm,
So when you have those communities within an organization, they have a powerful voice. They are now ERGs are driving not just business processes and having impacts on businesses, but they're also having impacts in communities as well. So it's extremely important for people to get into an organization, find your buddy, find somebody that you have similar interests with, or find something that you feel very passionate about, and you collectively, that group of people can help mold and shape that organization to be more inclusive to everybody. um, it does start with the organizational leadership to listen to employees and understand there is a need for change. So sometimes it should start at the top, but as a new employee or employees in an organization, you should not be afraid to create that change from the bottom up, because sometimes that's where it has to come from. So it's really just getting a collection of people within an organization who have same interests that they think or to improve the organization, and then they unite their voices to push that cultural change within that organization.
I really wish I could add to that or subtract, but no. Okay. My take when we talk about shared culture is usually an organization coming together to celebrate every differences
Yeah.
and adopt one culture supported by everyone.
Hmm.
So when we talk about collaborative cultures, we talk about an inclusive environment. That is a culture. That is a culture of an organization. But in that culture, would always find the bad eggs, anyways. But
Hmm.
looking into the maturities, how does your team, or how do your team members um, express the culture or the agreed culture of the organization? If you need to our listeners, if you need anyone that you want them to just take you through how you can have this shared culture being preached across the organization, Bavarde Talent Solutions can definitely help. But now back to that. Looking now into the topic, which is cultural supremacy in the modern day organization, and looking into shared culture, it's almost like saying cultural supremacy as the opposite of having a shared culture. And what we want to preach, what we want to advise in this conversation for today is having a shared culture, having an inclusive culture is the way to go. Because that is the way you can increase your retention rates. That is the way you can increase your productivity, your team productivity. That is the way the organization, the employer branding of the organization can also be improved and also pushed across many platforms. So now, what would be your advice to transitioning veterans that would like to go into the corporate world? What would be your advice to them as we run in this?
My first advice would be to know what it is you want to do. Um, Coming out of the military, we tend to focus on what we know versus when you come out and you have to explore different options.
Mhm.
Every veteran that I mentor, the first question I ask them is that if you had the perfect job, what would it be? And I'll get different. Some people say they don't know. And I say, no, like seriously, if you could sit back and say, you know what, if I could do this particular thing day in and day out, I would really be satisfied. And when they answer that question, the next question is, well, why isn't that the type of job that you're looking for? And they may be like, oh, I don't know this, I don't know that. And I was like, listen, man, like, or woman, and well, I just say, listen, this is your life. If that's what you're passionate about, then the only thing that's stopping you from attaining that is yourself. Like it's out there. There are jobs out there doing exactly what it is you said would make you happy day in and day out. So don't limit yourself into what you know now, but explore and go attain it. And just because you get into a company, unlike the army or the military, you can quit. If you don't like it, just go find another job. You know what I mean? When you're in the military, you got a contractual obligation. But when you're working in the private sector, if you're not happy with
Of
what you're
course,
doing,
that's real.
yeah, go find another job. But for military people, that can be a very difficult thing because from the time we join the service, it's all about loyalty. It's all about loyalty to the team, loyalty to the organization. And some have a hard time saying like, only been here 3 months, I don't like it, I want to leave because they feel that sense of loyalty. But I tell them all the time, listen, man, corporate America, I mean, as much as you want to think they don't have loyalty,
Mhm.
to employees. If they can bring somebody in who can do the same job better, that's what they're going to do. You may think you can be in line for a promotion, but if somebody from the outside comes in and they have better credentials than you,
Oh
that's
yeah,
higher. It's
we
not
are
like
always looking to add in more skills. So I'm not going to blame anyone for that. I'm not going to blame because
no.
even in my team, when I do team alignment, one thing I look into is skill and gap analysis. I do a skill and gap analysis to look at what is this team, what skills is the team lacking when we do a need analysis. So I wouldn't blame anyone if you find someone, if the team thinks that you're not ready for promotion, in as much it doesn't
Yeah.
come from the place of biases or from the place of microaggression or micromanagement, I wouldn't really bother, because one thing
Yeah.
we're looking into is the fulfillment of the strategic planning that we talked about at the earlier stage of this conversation. We're looking into the fulfillment of the strategic planning. And one way we do that is through buy-in. We buy in talent.
Yeah.
We go grab somewhere else. So if we do not, if we lack the skill in the organization, that is why it's very good. You don't have to wait until it's your turn for promotion before you start to improve yourself, before you start to learn new skill sets. If you know you have a target, a promotion target, you need to begin to show some exhibit some attitude of leadership, some confidence level to show that you can do the job. You don't.
Yeah.
And this is why I know I've listened to some people when they talk about the introvert versus the extrovert. Sometimes being an extrovert doesn't make you a good manager, but sometimes being an introvert could actually also hinder you from taking the next step at the time you should. There's so many trainees. I can, if you have an issue with that, I can always connect you with DEI experts that focus on the extrovert versus the introvert and help you to navigate your promotion. But what I'm trying to say is that if a team lack a skill sets, don't blame your manager for going for a buy-in. So that is why it's very good for you to just make sure that you always improve yourself.
Definitely. Definitely.
Sorry for cutting you. Sorry for interrupting.
no, no, I mean, just for veterans, they just have to understand you have to go out and prove yourself. I mean, your service to the nation is one thing, but when you jump into a different career field,
Hmm.
you have to prove yourself. And you hear, I've heard this analogy before. You can say for myself, I can leave the military at a high rank, but that company that I'm going to, they don't know that, or they don't that doesn't weigh on them is, can I do the job that they're hiring me for? It's no different than the CEO of, Honda or whatever saying, hey, I want to join the army. We're not going to bring him in and be like, you're a general now because you was the CEO of Honda. You have to come in and you have to work your way through the ranks and understand the organization. And it can be a difficult transition, especially for senior leaders who are kind of used to being in charge of tens of thousands of people, and now you go into an organization and guess what? You just erring on a team of four. So being able to take that step back and understand that you are changing total career fields and you have to establish yourself. The military does a very good job of teaching us soft skills and technical skills. You just have to be able to take those and apply them in a new role, in a new position, and people will recognize you for what you bring to the new organization very quickly. And that's how you kind of make your mark in a new organization, and you move up the ladder.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I really appreciate your input for today. You have been very resourceful. I would say thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, guys, thank you very much for staying with us to this end. This is a recorded session. So, for those who had always known that we do this by 12, I would still have this in LinkedIn. I would have it rebroadcast at the same time by 12:30. Actually, I will do that. So you can also take a look at this, and you can also go back to the LinkedIn, go to my page on LinkedIn, go to my LinkedIn page here, and also go to Bavarde Talent LinkedIn page. You'll see the recorded version. Also on YouTube, we do have this session recorded and um retrievable on YouTube. Thank you very much, Aaron. I do appreciate. To the listening veterans out there, if you're struggling with transition, Aaron can definitely help. He has the coaching sessions that it does for transition and veterans. It will be able to put you through what you should do and how you should do it so that you can transition successfully from the the military world to the corporate world. Also, as a DEI recruiter, consultant, and speaker, If you also want me to take a look at it or help you with your transitioning, I can also help you. I can be the second eye to your resume and see and make sure that it is industry standard, and will also help you in getting the new job or the new phase that you are in pursuit of. Thank you very much for joining us today. Once again, my name is Florence Ido, and this show is sponsored by Bavarde Talent Solutions. This is the DEI Small Talks. Thank you.